Chapter 28. Good Guys Convene. Bliss, flanked by cleavers, was waiting at the rear of the sanctuary. The Bentley pulled up sharply and Bliss yanked the door open, then lifted Tanith out. Her veins were sickly yellow spiderwebs that spread beneath her waxy skin, and she was barely breathing. "Out of my way," Ken Speckle muttered, shoving people aside. Bliss laid Tanith on the ground and handed Ken Speckle 3 different coloured leaves. He wrapped them around each other tightly, then held them between his clasped hands and closed his eyes. A light shone from within, bright enough to almost turn his hand translucent. Valkyrie could see the bones of his fingers. The light faded. Bliss took a clear tube and held it out, and Ken Speckle opened his hands slightly. He let a fine, multicoloured dust, the remains of the leaves, sift gently into the tube. Bliss added a few drops of a deep red liquid that smelled vaguely of sulphur, and Ken Speckle took the tube and shook it, mixing the contents. Bliss handed him a syringe gun, and Ken Speckle loaded the tube into it. "Hold her," Ken Speckle said. Bliss placed his hands on Tanith's shoulders. Skulduggery held down one arm and Valkyrie pinned the other. The cleavers secured her legs. Ken Speckle pressed the syringe gun to Tanith's neck, and the gun hissed with compressed air. The concoction emptied into her bloodstream. Tanith thrashed, and Valkyrie lost her grip on her arm. She grabbed it again, struggled to press it to the ground, and eventually had to kneel on it to keep it in place. Tanith bucked and writhed as the antidote worked through her. The yellow veins surged red, and her muscles knotted and strained. "Try to make sure she doesn't swallow her tongue," Ken Speckle said. And then Tanith went limp, and the veins were no longer visible. Colour returned to her face. "Will she be all right?" Valkyrie asked. Ken Speckle raised an eyebrow. "Am I a magic scientific genius, or am I not?" "You are." "And of course she'll be all right," he said. "She's more than I can say for my assistants. Do you know how hard it is to get good assistants these days? Granted, neither of them were actually any good, but—" He brushed his hands off and shook his head. "They were fine lads. Didn't deserve to die like that." He looked at Skulduggery. "You'll stop it, then?" "We'll stop it." "Fair enough." Ken Speckle stood up. "Let's get her inside." Valkyrie was sore. Her arm was stiffening up and her body was covered in bruises. She had cut her lip without realising it, and for some reason had a black eye, presumably the result of crashing the van, or the tumble she took down the stairs. Tanith was sitting beside her, and she was sulking. Tanith always sulked when she lost a fight. After she had fought the White Cleaver last year, she had spent most of her recovery time staring out the window, scowling. The antidote had neutralised the effects of the Heliquin poison, and the wound the stinger had made was already stitched up and healing. The moment she was able, Tanith had gone off and sharpened her sword. It lay on the table before them in its black scabbard. They were in the sanctuary meeting room. Mr. Bliss was seated at the far end of the table, and Skulduggery was standing against the wall, arms crossed and unmoving. The doors opened. Guild stalked in.
"Who do I blame?"
he thundered.
"Tell me who. We had the grotesquerie in custody. We had it and I wasn't informed."
"I take full responsibility," Skulduggery said.
"You do you? That would be quite noble if I wasn't blaming you anyway. You went behind my back, detective. You requested the services of 3 cleavers for guard duty, but you didn't follow procedure. Where are those cleavers now?"
Skulduggery hesitated. "They were killed."
"Well, that's marvellous news, isn't it?"
Guild snapped.
"Tell me, is there any part of this operation that you didn't botch?"
"Operation's not over yet." Guild glared.
"You're lucky I even let you in here, detective. I don't know how each and Meritorious handled things, but your reckless behaviour will not be tolerated by the new council."
"Councillor 1, Tanith murmured. Guild whirled.
"I'm sorry. I didn't quite catch that. To repeat what you said, so we can all hear it."
Tanith looked at him. Sure, I said Council of One, referring to the fact that the Council is not the Council until it has all 3 members. The elder mage bristled.
Your opinion is of little consequence in this country, Miss Lowe. You work for the sanctuary in London. You shouldn't even be here.
Actually, I'm freelance, Tanith responded. And I requested her help, Skulduggery said. It seems we could use it. Didn't you say we would be getting reinforcements? Guild's face went red, but Bliss spoke before he could start shouting again. All the offers of international aid have been withdrawn. In the past few hours, there have been attacks on personnel connected to practically every sanctuary around the world. Distractions, Skulduggery said. To keep everyone else busy, we've been isolated. Indeed we have. But who would be powerful enough to organise all this? Valkyrie asked. Vengeance? This has taken a lot of planning, Skulduggery said. Vengeance wouldn't have had the time.
That's not what we should be concentrating on, Guild snapped. We have to find the grotesquerie and stop it. That is our one and only concern.
The lunar eclipse will take place at 10 minutes past midnight tonight, Bliss said. That leaves us with 9 hours until the grotesquerie is strong enough to open the portal. Guild laid both hands flat on the table.
So what are we doing about it? Please tell me we're not all sitting around just waiting for something to happen.
We have all the sensitives on alert, Skulduggery said. Every psychic and seer we know is reaching out.
And if they don't find anything skeleton?
Skulduggery, who was still leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, tilted his head as he looked back at Guild. Then I recommend we work the case.
What does that even mean?
Guild raged.
We are facing a global catastrophe that could mean the end of everything, and you're talking about working the case!
I'm a detective, Skulduggery said. It's what I do.
Well, you haven't been doing a very good job of it, have you?
Skulduggery stood up straight now, hands down by his sides. Working backwards, he said calmly. Person or persons unknown have arranged to isolate us just when we need reinforcements to stop the grotesquerie. The grotesquerie is up and about because Vengeance finally got the missing ingredients he needed. Vengeance is out of his secret prison because Billy Ray Sanguine broke in and freed him. Billy Ray Sanguine knew where this secret prison was located because somebody in a position of power divulged this information.
You're getting off topic again,
Guild scowled. Somebody in a position of power, Skulduggery continued, divulged this information, presumably for a big reward. Now, here's where I start speculating. It's possible that this same somebody only rose to this position of power because he promised that once he was there he would find the location of the secret prison and pass it on. He would have made a deal with a powerful person or persons unknown, very possibly the same powerful person or persons unknown who have isolated us from the international community. But, very likely, he wouldn't have known who these mysterious benefactors planned to break out of that secret prison. Or indeed, why. Guild narrowed his eyes.
You'd better not be implying what I think you're implying.
Skulduggery nodded to a slim file on the table. That file is a record of the meetings you've had with other councils across the world since you were elected Grand Mage. You've had approximately twice the number of meetings with the Russian council as you've had with anyone else.
Those are official sanctuary matters and are none of your business,
Guild said, the veins in his neck standing out. 3 of those meetings were about security concerns in the wake of Serpine's activities, where you would have been privy to confidential information, including but not restricted to the location of various secret prisons in Russian territories. Guild stalked up to Skulduggery, and for a moment Valkyrie thought he might hit him. Skulduggery didn't move a fraction.
You are accusing me of aiding a prison break?
Like I said, I'm speculating. But if I were to accuse you of anything, it would probably be more along the lines of treason.
You're fired,
Guild said. Skulduggery tilted his head. You can't afford to lose me.
Oh, we can,
Guild snarled, walking for the door. I have a job to do, Skulduggery said, and I intend to do it. You may be a traitor, Gild, but you don't want the faceless ones back any more than I do. Gild reached the door and turned, his lip curled.
Then do it, skeleton. Stop the grotesquerie. Do your job. And once you're done, never set foot in here again.
He left, and nobody spoke for a while. Then Skulduggery nodded. I really think he's starting to like me.